Hey, you want to hear my philosophy of life? Do it to him before he does it to you. We're talking about On the Waterfront, starring Marlon Brando today. I am here, your co-host, uh, Lucas from The Bits of Lit, Dr. Strike the Sun, whatever you want to call it, Strike the Sun MD. And I'm here with your actual host, the weirdest of them all, Mr. Nothing. Hello.
Hello there, Lucas. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I watched the this movie today to make sure that I was ready. And yeah, it's fresh in my mind, and I have a lot to say about what this movie made me think and feel. I don't know how to feel about it.
It sounds like this movie has a like it's a very interesting movie. I definitely think the acting is really good, and that's possibly because it has Marlon Brando in it, which I knew going in, and like I've seen The Godfather and um the A Streetcar Named Desire, which he was also in,
I think
and
Elia Kazan also directed that movie.
oh yeah. And so just to provide some background, this movie was made in 1954, I believe it was. Um, and so you mentioned Kazan. You're referring to Elia Kazan, a Turkish filmmaker, who has a very interesting background. I'll let you go into that in a few moments. It was written by Bud Schulberg, stars Marlon Brando, Carl Malden, Lee Cobb, and Eva Saint, among many other people. What can you tell us about Elia Kazan? Why is he infamous here, Lucas?
He's a dirty, rotten rat.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
as Orson Welles says about this film, I'm paraphrasing here, but it is an ode to the um what is that term? This movie is like it's okay to tell on people. He during the Red Scare was a rat to basically rat out all his friends that were playwrights, screenwriters, actors, directors, whatever, and they all lost their uh, jobs, basically, their careers, when he was a witness at the House Committee on American Activities. And a whole bunch of people got blacklisted because of him. Interestingly, because of I think because of this movie, or just maybe just because of his act as witness, uh, The Crucible was written. With
Hmm.
Arthur Miller's The Crucible, which is a fantastic play and movie and story in its own right. Uh, anyway, quite controversial. I believe I was reading earlier that he won an honorary Oscar near the end of his life, uh, and lots and lots of people did not applaud him, as normally happens for someone earning a kind of lifetime achievement. And the event was picketed and protested against because he's a shitty person.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. Just to narc on your your fellow writer or fellow directors and whatnot
Mm.
really makes anything you do in Hollywood seem inauthentic. Now, I didn't know that coming into this movie. And there's a question of like whether or not this should guide your opinion of the movie, and I guess so. I guess
I
at the end we can really like talk more about that, but
Yeah.
it's really an awful thing to do. And I like now I can't like not think about that.
Yeah, I really struggled to keep that out of my mind so I could just objectively enjoy the art. And I feel so conflicted about it's like I do have a kind of belief in the death of the author and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like for, I would say like Roman Polanski has done worse things, and yet I can watch his movies and remove myself from the terrible things he did to that young girl. Um, but this movie, I was very conflicted, especially because it's kind of it feels very much like repressing maybe some guilty feelings of this possibly, and trying to like persuade the audience that actually being an informant and a witness and and doing this kind of thing is good, and I'm justified in my action. But at the same time, it's the common man who's coming together to like by the end, and the common man who is standing up to the corrupt official, or officials, whatever, uh, to as a union, so to speak, um, to come together, and it feels contradictory to what he did
Yeah.
in reality and what he seemed to value in reality. And it's in this weird, like, liminal zone of amazing art, very well directed, great script and story and shots and the shadows and lighting and fantastic acting from a lot of actors. I don't know what to think because I'm disgusted by the man who's made great movies, but this movie seems to both be not an apology, but like
An
a
excuse.
justification, what?
Mm. An excuse.
An excuse, and also like the opposite of what he did. So in that way, I guess it's good because it's multifaceted in that way and not obvious what way, especially if you don't know going in what the deal is. Maybe it's more it's very political movie, but the politics of the person making it is just doesn't seem to fit the politics of the movie, and yet at the same time very much does.
It just
Anyway,
it's awful knowing that the Red Scare, the 1950s, cost so many writers, directors, just
mm,
general people their livelihoods. And like it also sort of firmly installed capitalism in this hellscape of ours. So like for him to participate in that feels, very wrong, like morally wrong. Um, uh, so yeah, awful human being. If and so like and given like this seems like an excuse, like you see, like it's two different types of situations, as you said. Um, so like it's hard to like break that up, like death of author, like break away from that. But well, I guess we'll try to do that as we talk about this.
yeah, this particular one, it just is very difficult. But I guess we should start with the film instead of continuing on with I don't know what to think. So it starts off guns blazing in a sense because the action picks up immediately. We've got Terry Malloy is his name. That is Marlon Brando's character. Seems to be a pigeon keeper of some sort. He's a longshoreman. He's a stevedore, who is working for the local union, um, which is at this time run by a corrupt union mob boss,
Hmm.
um, uh, uh, whose name is Johnny Friendly. I
Hmm.
was gonna say Johnny Smiley. I don't know why, but Johnny Friendly. Um, the first thing we see Terry do is get a get a guy, Joey Doyle, to go to the rooftop where he's like going to give the pigeon or whatever. Um, but once he gets Joey's attention, Joey says, "Yeah, I'll go right up." And Terry looks up and he sees some mob enforcers up there, and you can already tell uh, Joey is not long for this world. And we see him flying off the roof, which causes a giant scene and instigates the story. Um, because, as we find out a little bit later, Terry didn't exactly know that's what they were planning on doing.
Hmm.
Um, or that's what he says, at least. I mean, I would think he would know who he's dealing with and why they would want to, but maybe he didn't really have that impression. But anyway, he says he didn't really know what they were going to do to Joey. He just was told, hey, come go to this place, get Joey up there, and this kind of thing. Um, this leads to all kinds of trouble. His sister and a local uh, priest, what's his name?
Dugan.
Barry. Go. Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. Sorry.
No, it's not Father Dugan. Dugan is one of the other people. I don't know what the father's name is.
I think it's Father Barry.
Maybe.
Yeah, Dugan is somebody else, but I think he's one of the enforcers, maybe.
I'll put it up here. If
Yeah,
if
please. I'm forgetting
uh
exact. I'm pretty sure it's Father Barry.
mhm.
Um, Father Barry is a pretty good guy, spreading the good word of Jesus and all that, but also um, really wants to uproot the corruption of the mob boss who's controlling the lives of these people who are under the mob boss's boot. Uh, but because he's the man who gets them paid and chooses them for like what work days they're going to be on and so on, they have a strong loyalty as well as fear for for him. There are some. Father Barry is trying to get people to actively um, speak up against Johnny Friendly and his gang, and everybody who tries meets an unfortunate end.
Yeah, well, at first, yeah, Father Barry is complacent about it. The union might is scary, or the mob is scary, but then Edie,
Oh yeah,
who
that's right.
is Jerry's sister, it pressures him to speak to the union members to try to figure out who killed her brother, and she
That's right.
also develops a bit of a relationship with Terry throughout the movie.
Yeah, you could call it a relationship, I guess.
It's very weird
It's
what's going on between them.
it's the worst part of the movie, I think.
Hmm.
It doesn't make a lot of sense and feels kind of rapey at times.
Yep, I definitely wrote that down.
Um, but I guess that's 1950s romance for you. Anyway, yeah, Edie, I forgot to mention her. Edie goes to Father Barry and pushes him to get the union workers. I guess probably because he's a well-respected figure and like he's a community leader himself as
Hmm.
a priest. So there is some, a mob boss is going to do what a mob boss is going to do, but there is some security with him going forth rather than, something else. Also, he's not employed by the mob. So that helps. He probably gets some of his pay like indirectly because of um, tithing or whatever. But point being, he's not connected to the mob. Maybe as a community leader, he has a little bit more power and leeway with pushing. So Edie, who deeply cares about her brother, wants answers. Um, This begins Terry's journey to becoming an informant and speaking up. Uh, he's very reluctant at first. He, when he starts this relationship with Edie, he takes a liking to her,
Mhm.
and he's pretty flirtatious with her and trying to protect her from like other union guys because you know how they are and this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but he's like early on, he's pretty respectful, but as I said before, it gets weird much later. But
Actually, something you said earlier happens when he's having a conversation with Edie. He
mhm,
says, you want to know my philosophy? It's do it to him before he does it to you." A great
yeah,
line, amazing line,
yeah,
kind of informing what the movie is really about. Uh, Terry doesn't really like have much faith in his fellow man. That might have
yeah.
something to do with his former job as a boxer,
Mm.
and the fact that he was asked to throw a fight, so he doesn't really have that positive
I
outlook.
think he was asked to throw a couple fights. He threw the first one, and I think it led him down a path that, like, obviously, we'll get to that big moment in the taxi cab, but definitely that first one. But it seemed like he lost some other ones. The one that really gets to him, at least, um, is the one that he threw for sure. But yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later, because that's also a great monologue, the most famous monologue of the whole movie. It's not my favorite monologue. That is much later, but yeah, if you want to hear my philosophy, do it to him before he does it to you. I guess like that does really inform his mindset, like as a boxer as well, and as a person. I guess like you would need that kind of cutthroat mentality to be like a competitive boxer. And it sounds like he was a good one who was up and coming until he became punchy. I think that's what I mean. When
Mhm.
you like, yeah, start losing. I guess he was throwing, but still. Um, yeah, this is something that's deeply a deep insecurity for him as well. He considers him, he doesn't believe in other people, but he also doesn't believe in himself. Um,
Mhm.
he's insecure about people considering him a bum, and that's how he feels about himself, especially because he's gone down this path led by his brother, which we will get to. Um, One thing that is interesting about Edie is that Edie's always spouting her philosophy, which is counter to his, in that her philosophy is to that all men should care for each other and love each other. Very the teachings of Jesus style thing,
Mhm.
mentality, but you know, it's fair. And I don't think he says it at this point. He has that great line about do it to him before he does it to you. But I think it's Father Barry says something about like use your conscience or something, and he's like, conscience, that stuff can drive you nuts.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I really like that line too. That's another good one. Um,
It really highlights the inner anguish that he feels.
yeah, I think his journey to becoming this like from being a self-loathing guy who was just gonna throw his punches where he's told and this kind of thing and just go through life miserable basically to someone who's willing to stand up for himself and I guess for others as well um, was really well done, really well acted by um, Marlon Brando. It was very believable, his slow transformation and just the way you saw him thinking when things would happen, when Father Barry would later, well, one of the people, let's just say this, one of the informants is about to go testify
Mhm.
and uh, they're working their stevedore jobs, moving stuff out of the ship, moving the packaging out of the ship, and one of the enforcers does this, gives a little sign, and all the like this guy seemed to be someone who was sneaking a couple bottles here and there. People were joking that he's the distillery, and then the shipment of alcohol comes crashing down on him. Oopsie daisy.
Yeah, but before that, like there was a scene in the church where a bunch of the stevedores met because the priest wanted them to sort of confess. Terry
Oh,
was
yeah.
asked to sit in on that meeting
Hmm.
to monitor things, and then like a bunch of the mafia or mob men showed up and banged on the windows, and then when people tried to leave, they were beaten up, and
Yeah.
Kaio Dugan, one of the stevedores who you were just talking about, was like, "Well, like, are you going to go all the way with me, priest?" And the priest is like, "Yeah, let's talk." And so they agree to do that. And because Terry's with Edie, like he's not able to monitor all of that, and the mob boss gets angry at him because he's goofing off and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Yeah, I skipped ahead a little bit. There was also like a confrontation on the dock as well. Um, a little bit earlier than that, I think. Where yeah, people get hurt, die, all this stuff. But yeah, he does go to the church, tries to talk to the stevedores. Terry's there. That's when his relationship with Edie really begins. Barry really eventually really starts to push on Terry. Barry and Terry. Yeah, he starts to push on Terry to like use his conscience and think like let's take this guy down. Um, well, meanwhile, at the same time, simultaneously, Edie and her feminine charms and her genuine passion and for her brother, finding out the truth, um, and care for all humanity, um, is also slowly eroding this tough guy shell
mhm.
persona that Terry is putting up, and this acceptance to be miserable and just roll with the punches. Terry starts to think maybe I can be, maybe I should do this. Uh, and this causes big problems for Johnny Friendly because, as you said, he can't really monitor what's going on. And now he's starting to think wait a second, Terry is implicated and involved in Joey Doyle's murder. And also, I guess I should mention that one of the later scenes or middle of the movie scenes, uh, Father Barry and Terry talk, and Terry confesses. He goes to the church again,
Hmm.
confesses, or no, he goes to the church, tries to get to talk to Father Barry. Father Barry is like, I don't want to talk to you, and leaves. And Terry chases after him. Father Barry walks out. Terry chases after him. Uh, and he confesses, and Father Barry is like, "Tell Edie," which seems like a bad idea. I
Yeah.
mean, she needs to know the truth, but um, I thought this next scene was pretty interesting.
But
He tells,
before
oh
we
yeah,
get there,
did I forget something?
there's one thing I wanted to point out, and that
Hmm.
is back when Kaio Dugan dies, inside the ship's hold, they call
Yeah,
for the priest, and the priest shows up and just starts yelling at the stevedores and the mob people who are on the scene. He talks about how each death is a crucifixion, and that they're ruining the mob is ruining this union. A pretty amazing speech. I thought it was like really compelling. Um,
yeah.
yeah, well, there you go. But uh, it's it's interesting because he talks about that crucifixion, and I think that kind of pops up near the end of the movie. I don't know if you caught it, but we'll talk about
Yeah,
it when we
I
get
caught
there.
it. Yeah, yeah. I meant to talk about that and then I got distracted and moved on. Yeah, that's a really powerful scene. That's my probably my second favorite scene actually. Because he's just shouting at them that this is a crucifixion. Dugan's death is a crucifixion. Joey Doyle's death is a crucifixion. Everyone who dies, it's, yeah, just like Jesus dying. I thought that was really powerful. And I guess because I was thinking of Kazan or Kazan's history, so to speak, I was wondering or just curious, like, I'm not in a union. I know you are.
Mhm.
And I know that unions are quite different than they were in this time, not run by mob rule. But I was thinking, like, what is the role of like, I know what the role of a union is meant to be. But if this was like me projecting, astrally projecting into some non-existent America, but like if the Red Scare was like a legitimate thing and not just a scaremongering tactic, and socialism and communism and that kind of thing were really on the rise, and radically going to change America, what would the role of unions be? Would there be a need if the government policies already were considering this kind of thing? Uh, Now, maybe this kind of question is better suited for like that time period where unions were a lot of unions were ruled by mobs, and this kind of and violent criminals and that kind of thing. Less so now, where they are desperately needed by people to protect their rights and yeah, fair wages and that kind of stuff. Uh, I don't know. That's not something that the movie is really trying to ask, but that was something that came to my mind. Where I was just thinking, like, what if all of his friends were trying to make communism happen, and it did, and then, like, how would what kind of society would we have in America, and what would there be a need for unions? If so, are how would they function? Because I would assume in a socialist or communist government, ideally, the laws are actually going to protect workers and that kind of thing. Uh, just something I was thinking of. I thought a strange scene to me though is when he confesses to Edie, and there's the ship is blaring loudly, and you can't really hear, and she like covers her ears, doesn't want to hear it, runs away, like yeah, keeps telling him like I don't want to see you, this kind of thing.
I really like this scene. It
Mm,
I'm always a sucker for those scenes where someone says something important to another character and you can't quite hear what they're saying, but the
yeah.
emotion on the characters' faces is like, "My God, what have you told me?" There's another movie called Booksmart. I don't know if you've seen it, but like there's a fight that takes place like near the end of the movie, and there's music, but there's no sound from the argument, but you can hear like or you can see the anger and frustration on the characters' faces as they fight, and then just like one of them walks off before like you see them mouth "fuck you." Really great. Unrelated to this movie, but
Sure.
like you kind of get that emotion here. It does feel kind of silly with like the ships making all this loud noise, but Evie running off, crying and horrified by what Terry has told her kind of amplifies the moment.
Yeah. And justified, it's indirectly, but like her brother's murderer in a sense, or associate to murder, or no, what is that when you didn't do it directly, but you have helped. I
An
forget that word.
accomplice.
Oh yeah, accomplice. Thank you. Accomplice to murder. Her brother's accomplice to murder is like, yeah, I helped, but I swear I didn't know.
Um,
Meanwhile, she's been saying, "Don't run with these guys. You know how they are." So I do wonder. Maybe he didn't have it. Yeah, maybe he didn't have it at the forefront of his mind. But like, come on, Terry. Anyway, then we get to something very interesting. We see more of Charlie, who is Terry's older brother, who is the right hand man or a right hand man of Johnny Friendly. seems to be well trusted, and Johnny Friendly is asking Charlie to make sure Terry stays quiet. Because obviously they're brothers, they have history in that sense. They have other history of Charlie telling Terry to stay quiet for the good of the Union. Charlie and Terry get into a taxi, and we get the most famous scene from the whole movie, and a fantastic speech where Charlie is doing everything he can to make sure that Terry will be quiet, but Terry hasn't made up his mind. And the more Charlie pushes, the more Terry makes up his mind in the opposite direction that Charlie wants. Um, and you get this really beautiful, really tragic scene where finally this event, this fight that Terry has been bringing up about how he could have beaten this guy and he had a chance and he understood how to fight him. We saw him showing what he would have done and how he was letting him get a left hook in for the first couple rounds just to get a feel for him, and then the next round he was gonna do this and that and boom 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 take him out. He read him like a book basically. But Charlie had, yeah, asked him to throw the fight, tries to pin basically where everything's gone wrong for Terry since then on the manager he had, if I remember right, or his trainer or something. And
Mhm.
Terry, I think this is definitely where uh, Charlie also pulls a gun on Terry.
Yeah.
I think it's
Mhm.
right before this, and Terry kind of like laughs it off, like pushes it aside and laughs it off. Like, I can't believe it's come to this. Like, Charlie is choosing that family over me. Um,
Mm.
and I think he's like, yeah, pretty heartbroken about that. But the only thing he knows how to do is, yeah, laugh it off. But anyway, during the speech, of course, Terry says it wasn't the manager or it wasn't my trainer, it was you. Uh, remember that night in the garden? You came to the dressing room and said, "This ain't your night." Um, and yeah, keeps repeating that, "This ain't your night." And he could have taken Wilson, he could have fought him, but instead he got a one-way ticket to Palookaville, as
Mhm.
he said, and he just like really hammers home, like, "You're my brother. You should have taken care of me." Um, you know, you should have taken care of me so I didn't just get short-term money for throwing fights and this kind of thing, or diving. Uh, and Charlie's like, "Well, come on, you saw some money. I put bets on you. You saw some money." And Terry, of course, "You don't understand. I could have had class. Could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it. It was you, Charlie."
It's the iconic line there that everyone
Yeah.
remembers from this movie.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, it's just heartbreaking as hell. Like, obviously, that's why it sticks out so well and has stood the test of time. But like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's universally praised for being pretty tragic. This sort of dissolution of the relationship between the brothers. They still love each other. Charlie does try to cover for Terry
Hmm.
to his death. But I'm curious to know, like, uh, I know you said it's the iconic line, but what part of this scene sticks out the most to you?
Like I think Terry's reaction to seeing Charlie pull a gun on him. Something
Yeah,
I haven't mentioned before is well, I did a little bit, but Brando's acting. The thing he does most in any movie is micro acting.
yeah,
Like he acts, but he also makes choices of the small things that his character does, which I don't think a lot of other actors or actresses really do. Like he's constantly shifting around in his seat. He's looking around in the scene.
mm,
And you see a little bit of that too. Like you see it on his face. He's just like, "Oh, come on!" Like he chuckles when he sees uh, like Charlie bring out the gun, and like he's just holding his hand to his face. That really gets me, like the because it really amplifies the emotion and like
mm,
the sort of I can't believe you're doing this to me. I can't believe you've done this to me in the past,
yeah,
and now you're trying to pin it on me. But it's you're the cause of all of this,
yeah,
and like that leads to him saying, I could have been a contender. I could have had the championship because that was the very next fight that was going to take place. And instead,
right.
you and your friends have drugged me down and left me in this place where I really don't want to be.
Yeah, he does not like that job. He doesn't like being there. He's miserable. You're right. He does very small things. I remember seeing an interview with Francis Ford Coppola, who obviously worked with him in The Godfather, uh, and talked to like Marlon Brando about his method and like yeah, was trying to figure out how to work best with him. And one time when they were filming, Marlo like turned to him, uh, Marlon Brando, just like did this. Me and what this was supposed to mean was like how much of my body is in the frame of the shot. Like, is it just from my chest up? Is my abdomen up going to be in? Is it just my head? This kind of thing. Because that was going to inform him on what kind of, micro acting kind of things should he do.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which I think is a very interesting thing, uh, interesting approach, like making sure he knows exactly what part of his body is going to be in frame. Quite interesting in his style. I think the thing that sticks out to me for the scene, by the way, is just like the hopelessness he feels throughout the whole speech, but particularly the strong emphasis on instead of a bum,
Hmm.
that line in particular. And yeah, just his facial reactions in that moment and the way he moves his eyes and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, does Marlon actually think he's a bum? It really hurts. Anyway,
A lot of emotion there.
yeah, great scene, very well shot, and all that. Uh, we find out the driver of that taxi is a mob enforcer.
Mm.
Charlie asks to drop off Terry, go to another place. That ends up not happening. He's shot to death, hanged up on a hook for everybody to see, particularly Terry, who is on a pursuit of revenge after he finds Charlie's body.
But
And
before that, he goes to Terry goes to Edie's, and like breaks into her house because she doesn't want anything to
yeah,
do with him. And then he like approaches her and tries to kiss her, and that's where it gets a little rapey. Luckily, he's stopped by like other mob people who are outside who are like, "Your brother wants to see you," and that's how he finds out that his brother is
oh
dead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. I thought I remembered it wrong. I thought seeing Edie was after, and he was like looking for comfort. Okay. Anyway, yeah, he goes to Edie's, breaks the door and the lock to her house,
Hmm.
chases her down her hallway, and kisses her. Uh, and she just accepts it at that point. Weird and unusual. Yeah, your brother wants to see you. Finds his brother. He's devastated. He wants revenge. He's got the gun that Charlie gave him for protection, uh,
Hmm.
because he knew that Terry was going to be a witness. So he goes to a bar, a mob bar, pulls out the gun, has the gun out. He's looking for Johnny Friendly, waiting for Johnny Friendly. Whole bunch of people come in. A lot of them try to escape or make a phone call to let Johnny know what's going to happen. Father Barry shows up
Hmm.
and says, like, if you have any strength in you, you'll wait till tomorrow and take revenge in the in on the stand in court. But if you don't, then you better keep the gun. This kind of thing. Like basically, uh, I guess his idea is that like if you just kill him, that's not gonna solve the problem.
Hmm.
Like you're gonna go to jail or get killed anyway. You might not even kill him. This is not something Father Barry says, but you might not even kill him. If you do, you kill him, someone's gonna take his place. If you inform in court, report on him, you take off the head, and that can hopefully relieve this issue. That would be my. He doesn't say this kind of thing directly, but I would guess that's
Hmm.
the reason why. And also, he's a God-fearing, God-loving man. Murder is against the religion, against one of the Ten Commandments. So there's also that. But if he really does want the mob out, then he's got to cut off the head, not just, you know. Anyway, um,
There's a part in that scene where like the bartender looks at the priest and the priest is standing behind Terry, and for a brief moment I think that I thought that the priest was going to bash Terry's head with a like a bottle, and
yeah,
like it was going to be revealed that the priest was also in on all of this, but no, that's not what's happening here, but the
I
framing
thought
of the scene.
yeah, I thought the bartender had a giant sausage in his hand and was gonna whack Terry.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it was a bottle, but I thought it was a giant sausage, and I was just wondering where did he get that from? Why does he have that at the anyway? Terry ends up throwing the gun at a picture of Johnny Friendly in his rage. And I believe the next scene is the court case.
Hmm.
And somebody is jokingly answering, mocking the prosecutor, um, who's wondering, like, why is it that lots of union offices were broken into last night, but only the financial reports were stolen? And this guy gives some cheeky, annoying asshole answers. And he gets off the stand. They call up Terry. It's not entirely sure what is Terry going to do. We're pretty clear, but there's some just some way he moves where it seems like is he gonna think of his own safety at this moment? But then, yeah, he tells everything that he knows about Johnny Friendly, and then I think Johnny Friendly, I guess because he's a mob boss and a thug, but after Terry confesses, actually, interestingly, when Terry confesses, there is this guy watching TV, watching the court case. Um, who was an unnamed faceless capitalist, I guess. Who
Maybe a senator or a congressman.
yeah, who after like didn't even want to hear everything Terry had to say, just turned the TV off and had his butler say, like, if Johnny Friendly calls, tell him all the deals are off. Like I'm not supporting him anymore. I don't think we ever saw him at any other point in the movie. Like, and we don't see his face here. So that was really interesting to me. I just kind of thought he would, I guess Johnny Friendly is a union head, so maybe a capitalist is not quite right, but yeah, maybe a politician of some kind. But he had a butler, so I was thinking it's got to be someone richer than that, maybe. I don't know.
I don't
Did you
really
take
know.
did you take anything from this other than this is strange?
I thought maybe it was his lawyer.
Oh yeah, it could be.
His lawyer's like, yeah, we're finished here. I don't want to hear
But
anymore.
his, you would think his lawyer would be in the court.
Yeah, I think it's also just insinuating that the mob has connections with somebody in power.
Yeah, has connections with higher powers that have wealth is, I guess, the main point. Yeah, it was an interesting scene. It seemed a little, I guess it does show something, but it was kind of like, wait, who is this guy? It was just a
Hmm.
scene that I guess it fits the movie, but it felt like it came out of nowhere. But then Johnny Friendly's called to the court. Skelly, I think is his name. I
Yeah,
don't
Michael
remember.
Scaly, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
threatens Terry. He's like,
Yeah.
no more work on any waterfront from here to like New Orleans for you." Which he does like at the front of the court. So it's not a very good. It's not very smart to threaten people like that because
Yeah. You're never gonna work. You're never gonna drive. You're not gonna be a stevedore. You're not gonna do any job. So help me God from here to New Orleans, from New York to New Orleans. Raise his fists. He's an idiot.
yeah.
But he's got connections, so he's not gonna face trouble. But like I felt like okay, maybe the court is also packed in a sense. Probably if there's a jury, it's packed, so he could get away with it anyway. But anyway, uh I believe after that, yeah,
Oh, you mean that the jury is bought and paid for?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, I understand what you mean there. I didn't think about that, but that's probably accurate.
Yeah, because I was thinking like there's no way unless he's just truly a stupid thug. And I don't know if he could get to that position being that stupid
Yeah.
unless he knew doesn't even matter what this guy says because my court of peers or my jury of peers, they've got my back because they're bought and paid for. And we'll get more work at the dock, so to speak. Anyway, or whatever other union he's working with, or whatever jobs he has with through the union. Um, the next scene I think is at the docks where
Well,
everybody
actually,
gets.
people begin turning against Terry,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
one of his younger friends, there's a boy. He just throws a pigeon at Terry and says, "A pigeon for a pigeon."
That was
Uh,
pretty funny. That
pretty
felt
silly.
weird. I didn't, I mean, I understood what was happening in the movie, but I was like, what? What is this about? Another weird choice, but I'm sure there's a good reason. I didn't quite understand. But yeah, everybody starts turning away. They give him dirty looks, this kind of stuff. He goes to the dock. Everybody's working. Roll call. I call your name, you got a job. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone has a job except for Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Terry goes goes looking for Johnny Friendly,
Mm-hmm.
and gives my favorite monologue
Mm-hmm.
in the whole movie, which is just very powerful and how I was feeling at this point and the way it is performed. Like there's so much like anguish and angst and like just power. Like you think you're God Almighty, but you know what you are. You're a cheap, lousy, dirty, stinking mug, and I'm glad what I done to you. You hear that? I am glad what I done. But of course, well acted and not just spoken
Yeah,
as I
no, no,
did.
I agree. I love this. He's standing on the
Yeah,
dock, and they're both trying to be like macho bravado, but only Terry really has it, because he's gotten over his sort of reliance on Johnny here.
yeah. He's gotten over that. He's become a new man. He has something he's fighting for again. He has something to live for. Uh, and he gets taken back behind the shed and beat to a bloody pulp, but not after getting a few good swings.
Yeah, like like when we see Johnny again, he looks awful.
He's still got it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pushing 30, which is a little old for a boxer, I think.
Hmm.
But he still got it. He gets a few good swings on Johnny. But yeah, he's looking at Johnny's looking bad, but Terry's looking worse because he was outnumbered. The boss, the owner of the dock, I would guess, is like, what is everyone doing here? We got to get this ship moving. We're wasting money. We're losing money. And we get a little bit of class consciousness, which of course, uh, consciences will drive you nuts. But we get a little bit of class consciousness where nobody wants to work, no matter what Johnny Friendly says, until Terry gets a job, gets to work. And also they want to see if Terry's okay. But yeah, they say like we're not working. Some of them say we're not working till Terry gets a job. Johnny loses his mind, starts pushing people around, and falls into the dock bay,
Mm-hmm.
which was awesome. I was kind of hoping he would just drown there, but that's okay.
You
It's more
managed to.
powerful. It's more powerful that he shows up again, and we see, uh, Terry is found by Edie and Father Barry, who say like it sends a strong message what you've already done, but it'll be even stronger if you can, make your way to the warehouse and show that you still stand tall, and this kind of thing, and you'll really get the support of the people, and that will undercut the mob boss entirely. Uh, and that's what happens. He's stumbling his way to where the boss is just kind of
Mm-hmm.
standing like that, which is kind of weird.
So,
Um,
because earlier in the movie, the father says, that every murder is like a crucifixion, and I
mm,
don't know why, but this just like the way Terry looks, I feel like this is the passion of the Terry here. Like he's walking through the
kinda.
crowd, which is lined up in the same way that the crowd lined up for Jesus.
Mm.
And it's just like it looks like a heavily religious scene here.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, he makes it. Yeah, he's been beat up. He's had his whipping, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
He's bloodied. He's stumbling. He can barely see. His eyes are, going all over the place. He's making these faces, but he manages to make it. It's still weird to me that the boss is just like and silent. I mean, I can understand he's not gonna help Terry, but like, why is he just quiet? Why isn't he trying to get people to work? I guess the union leader has more say over the workers in this situation. But once Terry gets in or past a certain threshold, everybody's like, all right, no, then the boss says, all right, get to work. And everybody goes in and they leave Johnny Friendly out. And he has been shut out of this community. He's no longer a leader despite his blustering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the head of this corruption has been defeated, cut off, and um, his strength and power is totally evaporated.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the movie there.
That's it.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good ending.
Mm,
Um, I do think there's kind of some areas that aren't like completely fulfilled. Uh, for one, like um, Terry does sound like Zach Braff at times. Marlon Brando is doing a weird accent here. Um, it's probably fitting to the New Jersey kind of environment that he's in.
yeah.
Also, I don't think there's enough resolution for the relationship that forms between Terry and um, uh, Johnny Friendly.
Mm,
I would like to see that possibly explored more. And then the way like Terry and Edie are, it's a very weird sort of relationship, kind of half formed there. It's a really silly kind of story at times, but I do think it's great, wonderfully acted and good some good direction. Although compared to some of the other movies we've watched for this. I feel like it's missing something that really sets it apart from those movies.
I agree. Uh, I thought it was a very strong movie overall. Some weird stuff with Edie, not really satisfying relationship with Johnny Friendly. They don't even need to have more stuff at the end, but if we could have seen, I don't even know, a little bit. I mean, you see them talking all throughout the movie here and there, but yeah, I agree. There is something not there. Also, a nicer not a nicer resolution, but something a little bit more with Father Barry and Edie with to Terry would have been nice. M Maybe even a little bit more with Charlie as well. Basically, his relationships with everybody. I think if this movie was 10 minutes longer, could have even just 5 minutes longer or something, we could have explored those a little bit more. I think it was good enough that it doesn't detract from the movie too much, but um, yeah, those things were kind of missing. It was a pretty powerful ending, but I really liked seeing him lose Johnny Friendly lose his power in that way. I think that was even better than obviously than dying or being shot or even going to prison. It seems almost more realistic, like, yeah, like we are choosing not we are um refusing corruption. And we're gonna, well, in this moment at least. We are refusing corruption. That's good, but maybe if there was one small thing with Terry, uh, and it also felt like Terry was going to die, which maybe would have, if it actually happened, might have cheapened the movie. But if they're going for this religious Jesus thing, he's got to die, like maybe at the hospital after because he's
Hmm.
been beat up, internal bleeding or something. Um, like he tries to work or whatever. That would have kind of ruined the narrative, but I think he should have died probably if they're going to go all the way with this Jesus Christ metaphor. But otherwise, great movie. Can't
It's
complain.
not a bad thing that Elia Kazan sold out his fellow movie makers. He's actually Jesus.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He is the Messiah, returned in Turkish blood. Yeah, maybe the biggest thing that is holding it back from being like, this is stunning, this is superstar movie. I love to see the class consciousness of that they're developing is oh, one smaller thing. We don't really see the stevedores too much, like feeling the weight and pressure of being under Johnny Friendly. Like he does take care of them by giving them jobs, so of course they're going to be loyal and probably generally be positive. But like I feel like they turn on him pretty quickly. I know Terry is one of them, but I don't know. I felt like maybe if they've seen their fellow people get killed,
Hmm.
but I never felt like I wish there could have been a scene of them like maybe just some of the stevedores at the bar or something complaining about, oh God, Johnny Friendly is pretty rough these days, or whatever. Uh, just this kind of thing maybe could have made the flip a little bit more natural. Just one stevedore complaining a little bit more, or at all before this happened, instead of yeah changing right at the end when their fellow stevedores have been killed in their front of them. But yeah, we said we would get back to Elias' betrayal of his friends. That also holds it back from being good for me. Like
Hmm.
not good, but like pitch perfect and like yeah, I love this class consciousness that they're developing because he does not have class consciousness. Where is this coming from? Is he rubbing it in their faces look at me make this quasi-socialist movie that defends my actions because I'm
Uh,
Christ himself.
or maybe he's arguing that the communists were like Johnny Friendly, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. There's so many very confusing things to think about with what is the messaging of this movie. It's a beautiful story, but
Maybe we're thinking too deeply about it, and Elia isn't self-aware at all. And he just made this movie to make a movie about the mob and unions and Terry, and there's nothing deeper to it. But also that's probably not the case. He
no
probably
introspection. Yeah,
yeah.
no introspection whatsoever. Just, ah, the mob is like this. What's that about? Yeah, well, I guess that leaves just one more very important final question. Which character did you relate to most?
Well, I think I related to the father, Father Barry,
Mm,
and trying to do good, sometimes having to be pushed to do good by your friends. But when you're set on that course, you're really willing to speak out and stick your neck out, even if it gets you hurt. And I kind of related to that with Father Barry.
mm. Yeah, I think for me, probably up until recently, I'm in a, as I think I told you 2 weeks ago when I finished paying my student loans. I paid my student loans off. But basically up until I did, uh, like I came to China to pay off my student loans. I'm still in China. I've paid off my student loans. Uh, my point being that I would have said definitely up until 2 weeks ago, I relate to Terry and that when he's in the taxi talking to his brother, kind of feeling like I could have been somebody, but these student loans and early start in life and these kinds of things have held me back. But the past 2 weeks have been a bit introspective, thinking, what do I really want for myself now that I've done that? Actually, I should be quite proud that I've done that. That's a big accomplishment. And those student loans got me to this place that I'm very happy in. I've lost that feeling of like I could have been somebody, and now I have a very kind of positive, generally speaking, outlook on like I can be somebody now. Let's figure out who that is. Not that I'm not somebody now, but like I feel more free than I did before. But I would say probably now I don't relate to Terry as much. But maybe I relate to Father Barry as well for the same reason of like wanting to stand up and stick to my guns on things and try to get people to believe in themselves and this kind of thing and proselytize at the same time.
Hmm, yeah. It's interesting. It's good that you're unbound by the shackles of the student loan debt. So that's
Yeah.
well, interesting.
I know you're like going through the program as a like civil servant type
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
So eventually, I'm hoping that that will happen soon for you. It will be a very weird feeling when it's gone. Uh, I paid all of mine completely by myself. When you maybe so that is probably going to be a little bit different than when I know you've been paying yourself, but when you get your forgiveness for that, which I hope comes soon. But either way, whatever happens, it will be a very weird feeling.
Hmm.
I can promise you that. Like it's a good weird feeling, but it's like now what?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, then the other thing here is talking about what we're going to be watching next month. And there were a couple good ideas, but I think the movie that I'm going to have us watch is Fantastic Planet. a French movie,
Okay.
which I've found on HBO Max or Max, whatever they want to call it. Have you ever seen Fantastic Planet before?
Nope.
It's a weird animated, I would say experimental movie. A good chance that one of us will not like it. And
Excellent.
it's also French. Um,
Oh,
uh,
I've seen this. I haven't watched it, but I've seen images of it.
Also, a final note is this movie kind of made me miss La Jetée. Um, and like it made me
Really?
appreciate La Jetée more because of its sort of like its risk that it was willing to take. Whereas like
Yeah.
this movie didn't really take as many risks. Uh,
You mean on the waterfront?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty stick to your guns, basic, uh, cinematographic style. Cinematic. Yeah. That's why I love La Jetée. That's my favorite PowerPoint.
Yeah. So I guess this is me kind of reforming, which I do a lot
Mm,
on this channel. Like you give me like a month or two and suddenly I'll have different thoughts on things. Um,
mm.
Especially seeing other things as well. So I'll send you more details about Fantastic Planet. But other than
Excellent.
that, we've come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, since and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below as well. We'd love to hear from you about what you thought about On the Waterfront and what you think about Elia Kazan's sort of actions that he took in the 50s. And also subscribe to Lucas's channel. He's been making a few more videos
Yeah. A return
about
from the dead.
about various books and video games as well.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. And until then, we wish you the best of luck in your weird and mob-controlled union-related travels. Hopefully not. Farewell.
Farewell.